Good evening. My name is Twyla York, and I run Greater Chicagoland Pagan Pride. And for those who don't know, that is an event in Chicago that brings out about 1,000 people every year, and has been something that has created growth within the community, as well as a large community event in which everyone can come out and educate themselves and experience a community that Pagan Pride is in Chicago, which there is a strong pride of what we are, and it's growing more and more, and Pagan Pride allows that to be. This video today is to talk about somebody who I deeply admire, Phyllis Curott. I had the opportunity to meet at Phyllis many years ago at the Parliament of World Religions out in Salt Lake City. And from the moment I saw her, I knew that she was someone that needs to be listened to. And then she validated that when she walked on stage and she started speaking. And she started speaking about the power of women, the power of unity, the power of community. But she also spoke about how the Mother Earth is suffering, how she is hurt, and she's screaming for our attention, and only our elders are listening and nobody else is, and we need to start listening to her and joining together and being stronger. And I knew from those words that I was going to like her. Even if I never saw her again in my life and anything like that, just her stage presence, her eloquence, and then learning about her background as an attorney and as an activist, and her struggles to fight where she got to where she is, and to travel around the world speaking, and all the steps that she's done to be where she's at. And demonstrated not only that she is well educated and strong and wise and cultured and just worldly, she was also a woman who was doing that. She was a woman in the man's world, and being a lawyer, fighting that fight. Then she fought that fight, and she's now moved on to being a pagan spiritual leader, in which she truly is. And after the Parliament, I had the great pleasure of meeting her in person at an event held up in Wisconsin. And from there, I got to know her as a person, not as this figure that's being held up by media and books and the pagan community, but somebody who is real. And when she spoke to me, she was real, and she had a lot of the self-doubt that I experienced, and she was human, and she wasn't human like physically blood, but the emotions, the faults, the steps, the paths that we go through. You really saw that with her, and meeting her, connecting to that to when I first saw her, I realized that she brought that that realism into her talk when I first saw her. Then I got to see her and bring her to Chicago for Pagan Pride one year, and I got to hear her speak again, and I got to see her relate to the community, and this was on a smaller scale than Parliament. And not once did she lose her audience. She was constantly drawing them in to what she was saying, and so you wanted to hear, you wanted to know, yes, I experienced this, or how can I experience it? What can I do? How can I connect? And people were engaged. They got drawn in. And as a speaker, that's so important, that you can lack on all day like I am in this video and not care. You can't do that with her. And I think that's important to point out for her as a speaker, because you can learn, you can be well educated, you can do all these things, but if you can't connect to your audience, then your voice isn't heard as it should be. And you hear her. You hear her through her voice, you hear her through her mind, and you hear her through her heart. And I think everyone who hasn't read her books needs to read her books. And anyone who gets the opportunity to meet her needs to meet her. And if you get a chance to listen to her speak live, do that. Any opportunity you get to connect with her and her work, is an opportunity for you to learn. Now, it may or may not be this spiritual awakening that you'll see the light, or however you want to describe it, but you'll see a person who is connecting with you and is talking to you about something that's important, and she wants to relate to you. And that's important. What she says is important. What she says will relate to you. Pick up her book. It's worth a read. Any of her books. Sign up for her email list, because you're gonna want to know what she's writing next. You're gonna want to know where she's speaking next. You're gonna want to look her up. You will not regret it.